This is the Workplace Ninja podcast, coming to you live from our summit in Baden with highlights, insights, and interviews.
All right, welcome all to my very first session ever here at the beginner stage. Very glad to be doing it here at the Workplace Ninja Summit. Today I want to talk to everybody about going passwordless, a subject I haven't heard a lot about in this summit. Yesterday we had a great session about a passwordless solution for break the glass accounts, but today we're here to talk about going fully passwordless. Seeing that we don't have a lot of time, I would really like to get into the lessons that I learned, some important lessons, and don't get too much into the whole point of why we want to go passwordless, what the prerequisites are, etc. But just to quickly get into that, actually before we're getting into that, I just want to really quickly introduce myself. My name is Guus from Berge. And I'm a consultant working in the identity subject, and I've done many implementations for customers doing actually going fully passwordless. So that's why I'm here today to share some of those experiences, and I hope that we can help you all. Yeah. So just to get back to why we want to go fully passwordless, I had this picture here of the burglar trying to pick a lock. And why did I use this picture? Because actually, if a burglar doesn't have a lock to pick, he cannot break in. And that's kind of what we want to achieve by going fully passwordless. If there's no passwords, a hacker cannot actually hack the password. So that's kind of like the concept of it. Also, when going fully passwordless, it's also a really great time to get rid of your unsafe MFA methods. Think about SMS, think about phone. Yes, they are unsafe. Unfortunately, you know, hackers are getting more creative. You know, it's something that we need to get over. And also, last one, end users also really love going passwordless because the actual user experience is getting better. So from my experience, the end users really like to go passwordless because it makes it easier instead of harder. All right. What I want to get into before I get to the actual lessons that I learned is what are the different kind of methods that we can use to go fully passwordless. The first one is the most familiar one. It's phone signing on your authenticator app. I don't know if you ever tried it, but there's if it's enabled in your organization, it's a very simple button in your authenticator app. You can push it as a user from a user perspective, and then you can already start using that. And it's of course the most easiest way because most users already have the app or know the app, so it's very easy and quickly to adopt. The second one is the one that users really love. Most organizations are already using it, but Windows Hello for Business. Of course, it can be used by PIN, can be used by biometrics, and it's used to log into your Windows device. Very easy for users, much easier than, for instance, putting in a password. One thing that I see a lot is that organizations hesitate to implement Windows Hello for Business because they say, no, our hardware isn't sufficient enough because we don't have the right cameras, we don't have fingerprint. That's not absolutely necessary. If you have a TPM chip, which is the minimum requirement, you can just use PIN. And that's already much safer than using your password for logging into your Windows device. So remember that when talking to your customer or your person who needs to implement it, that you can start using it only by PIN. Then the third one, a FIDO2 key. Very good one to have around. Very safe, fully phishing resistant, and very good to know you can use it for multiple purposes. So we have it at our company, and we can use it, for instance, to open the physical office, or we can use it for charging a car. And when I log into a private PC, I can also use it to passwordlessly sign in. Also very good to know is you can use it for multiple accounts. So for instance, I can also use it for my admin credentials. And you can even enforce that. So for instance, if I want to elevate to a privileged role, a highly privileged role, for a global admin, etc., you can enforce using your FIDO2 key, which is again fully phishing resistant, unlike the Authenticator app. And then the last one, a very important one, it's the temporary access pass, or TAP for short. And the temporary access pass is a necessity because you need it for your onboarding procedure. And the temporary access pass has already been around for a long time. And I don't know who already uses the temporary access pass in here. Yeah, I see a few hands. So the temporary access pass is necessary for onboarding because you need to hand out something to the user for his onboarding because he doesn't get a password anymore. But it's already been useful for a very long time because what we see a lot is that when new accounts are being created, we are not protecting the registration of the security info. So for instance, if a user gets his username and password and he can enroll his Authenticator app from any location, that's not really that safe. So what you actually want to do is you want to protect that registration by already requiring MFA upfront. What you can do here is give out a tab and use that for your registration. That way you are protecting the registration piece. This is something that I would highly recommend doing at a minimum for all your admin users, because you don't want to have admin accounts that have not been registered for MFA yet, just around, and a hacker harvests the credentials and can do the registration by himself. So really start doing this. If you're not using it, start doing it, please. So that's a temporary access pass. Now let's really get into those things that I found out while helping organizations going fully passwordless. The first one is phone sign-in for Android. I just mentioned phone sign-in, very popular passwordless sign-in method. For iPhone, works like a charm. For Android, it does as well, but there's only one small problem. Android only lets you register phone sign-in for one organization. So if you have users in your organization who, for instance, have multiple accounts because they also have an admin account in your tenant, or if you have users in your organization who work for multiple companies that all require phone sign-in, you have a problem. So make sure that in front you have an alternative for these users, for instance, a FIDO2 key, which they can use. Microsoft is working on this. I don't know how long it's going to take. This is actually one of the questions I wanted to ask Microsoft yesterday. Like, when are we, Android is really behind on these development things. Same thing as the broker function for the Authenticator app. Same thing, Android is always behind. So yeah, unfortunately I wasn't able to ask it yesterday. There were too many questions about the whole support issue. But yeah, for me, this was personally more important because I see that organizations, get held back because of this limited functionality. All right, the second one, the onboarding procedure. Make sure that your users have a very good onboarding procedure. Make sure that you have the right adoption applied. Make sure that you have good the papers for the users so they can read upfront and they can have a seamless onboarding. For instance, for the Authenticator app, it's much better to use the sign-in option rather than let the user go through, scan the QR code, because when you use the sign-in option, a phone sign-in is enabled automatically. So that's a very easy way to get the user adopted into the passwordless phone sign-in. The third one is autopilot reboots. Yesterday I was attending a session. Actually, the first day I was attending a session about perfecting your autopilot setup. And one of the things was how to stop the autopilot reboots. Well, we definitely want to do that when going passwordless. If you during your autopilot process get a reboot, somehow Windows asks for your passwords and not for your temporary access pass. because temporary access space is fully supported in Autopilot. So that's what you need for your onboarding again. And then somehow, if a reboot is enforced during Autopilot, it pops up asking for your password. There are ways around it. For instance, you can enable web sign-in, so the user can use the tab, but it's not so friendly. So please make sure that your Autopilot process is seamless and you don't have any reboots. All right, and then the last one, B2B collaboration. This is something I do not have a solution for, but in some cases we see that when logging in as a guest user in another tenant, somehow it asks for your password and doesn't single sign log you in. This is something that we already addressed at Microsoft. They're looking into it. It happens very randomly with some tenants. Sorry, don't have a solution for it, but just to note, try testing this out, in small groups, enabling passwordless, see if everything works seamless with your other B2B tenants, etc. All right, one more thing. I'm using this picture here. Anybody knows what this is? No? Sorry? No, it's, I mean, this is pretty risky joke that I'm making here. This is what I call a risky user. Sorry, I'm very sorry. I thought it was a boys club here today, but sorry. So what we have a problem with is we are having, when using identity protection and a risky user comes in, what do we like to do with the risky user? Anybody know? Password change. That's what we do to auto-remediate that risky user. And that's a problem when going passwordless, because we don't want the user to get a password change, because we disabled the whole self-server password reset portal. And there is actually not a solution for this at the moment, because Microsoft only gives us the options when enabling the risky user policy within conditional access. We can only do require password change, which remediates the actual risky user. We can do a block, but then the user cannot remediate. Then the user just keeps on blocking because the user will stay a risky user. And there's not a lot of options left. This is also something that we addressed to the identity protection team at Microsoft. They are working on it. But for now, there's not a really good solution. So when going fully passwordless, or when bringing a group of users passwordless, make sure that you reconfigure your user risk policy in reporting mode. Or block if you want to be very strict, but then know that you're gonna, your service desk might get extra tickets of users who are unable to log in and cannot remediate themselves. The actual solution, in my opinion, is that we have a revoke sessions as an automated remediation. Revoke the session of the users, and then if the token is stolen by a hacker, then he needs to re-authenticate by a new passwordless method. And then the user risk is remediated. So that's the solution that we come up with in my team. Don't know if Microsoft is going to pick up on that, but they definitely need to come up with something. Otherwise, yeah, risky users are not automatically remediated anymore. All right, that's it for today. I want to thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed the session and picked something up.